Understanding the date fields. Primavera has a number of date fields, and we'll cover about half of them now and explain how they operate. So we'll have a look at the early start and the early finish, the late start and the late finish, the actual start and the actual finish, the start and finish, the planned start and the planned finish, the remaining early start and finish, and the remaining late start and finish. So first of all, let's have a look at the early start and the early finish. So if you were to display an in-progress program with an activity that's finished, an activity in progress, and an activity that's not started, these are the dates you'll see. So you'll see that these are the earliest dates, unstarted activities, and here we have an unstarted activity, or the incomplete portions of in-progress activity. So this is the incomplete portion of an in-progress activity, may start and finish based on calendars, relationships, and constraints. So what you'll see is the unstarted activity, the early start is the 27th of October, which is the earliest that activity can start, and the 21st of November, which is the earliest it can finish. The in-progress activity, you'll see that the early start's the 13th of October, which is here. So this is in actual fact for an in-progress activity. This is more commonly known as the remaining early start. And so what we're showing here is that the early start field shows the remaining early start for an in-progress activity as the start and the early finish as the finish. More commonly, other software would actually show this date here, which is the 29th of October, as the early start with an A for an actual. But P6 displays this differently, and the early start for an in-progress activity is what is more commonly called the remaining early start. When an activity is complete, you will see that the early start and the early finish are set to the data date. That's the 12th of October at midnight, and not the actual start and the actual finish as in many other products. So you'll see here that the early start and the early finish are displayed as the data date, whereas other products will have the 1st of September and the 26th of September as the early start and the early finish with an A to indicate they've actually started and actually finished. And again, P6 does not show the early start and the early finish in the way other products display it. And when an activity is complete, the early start and the early finish is displayed as the data date, which can be very misleading. So when an activity is in progress, the early start and the early finish is set to the calendar start date and time, and not the actual start as in many other products. Late start and late finish. These are the latest dates that unstarted activities or incomplete portions of in-progress activities may start or finish based on calendars, relationships, and constraints. So here we have an activity that has not started, and this is the latest point in time that activity may finish, which is the same as the total float point, and this is the latest time that that activity can start without delaying the end of the project. And this is the way other products would display these dates. But the in-progress activity, the late start, is shown as the 20th of October, which is in actual fact the remaining late start. That's the latest point in time the remaining duration of the activity may start without delaying the end date of the project. It's interesting to see that the complete activity has the late dates set at a point in time that would be equivalent to when it could start and finish without delaying the project. And it's exactly the same, these dates are the same as the late start of this activity here. The remaining late start, that is. And therefore the total float here is null, which one would normally expect, but it's actually showing a float bar, which is an interesting method of displaying float when you have a null value. Other products show 0, but most other products would show the late start and the late finish as the actual start and the actual finish with an actual behind them. So it's again interesting the way Primavera displays late start and late finish, and a lot of people would not agree with displaying these dates here. So the end of the total float bar is the same date and time as the late finish for these activities here. The actual start and the actual finish, these are the dates that one would manually apply. So when an activity is actually started, you'll type in the actual start. When it's actually finished, you'll type in the actual finish. And these override any constraints, and they should be set in relationship to the data date. So if this is the data date, one would normally type the actual start and the actual finish in the past, because if it's in the future, then the activity could not have been finished. So the actual date should never change after they've been assigned, but but in P6 you'll find both the apply actuals and the update progress functions may change these actual dates, and these functions must be used with extreme caution. So once you've assigned actual start and actual finish of a completed activity or the actual start of an in-progress activity, you must be careful about using apply actuals and update progress functions because these dates may get changed. And we'll explain why in a minute. Start and finish. The start field here is set to the early start when an activity is not started and the actual start when it has started. And the finish is set to the early finish when an activity is not complete and the actual finish when it is complete. You'll find that A is placed behind the date when an actual start or an actual finish has been set, and an asterisk is placed after dates with constraints. So these date fields, that's the start and the finish, allow the early and actual start and finish dates to be displayed as expected when the activity is not started, is in progress or is complete. And therefore you see in the workshops and this presentation to date, we've been showing the start and finish dates, not the early start and the early finish, as you might do with other products such as SureTrack or P3. Plan start and plan finish. These dates are very complex and their calculation method is outlined in my book, but in summary, when an activity is complete or in progress, as in these two here, they match the status of the activity just before its mark started. So this is where this activity was scheduled. This purple line is where this activity was scheduled before it's marked as actually started. And this is where this activity was scheduled just before it's marked as actually started. But when an activity is not started, as in this activity down the bottom, the plan dates equal the early start and the early finish. So if I was to increase the duration of this activity, the plan dates would change. It's quite possible to end up with irrelevant information in the plan dates if an activity is started, and this will usually happen if you're in the progress of updating a schedule, and if you reschedule with a new data date and all the activities moved in front of the data date, any activity that you update from that point in time, you'll find the plan dates hold irrelevant data, and so the plan start and the plan finish may not represent what they were in the previous update, and they don't represent what they will be in the current update, and therefore have irrelevant data. So you must be very, very careful about displaying the plan dates. Plan date issues. Having established that the plan dates are dates that most schedulers would not want displayed, in particular when you have an in-progress program, there are three issues you need to be aware of. First of all, that these dates are displayed as the project baseline bars and the primary user baseline bars when no baseline has been assigned. So if I was to show a baseline against this program here, the baseline bars would be displayed as the planned dates and would not be a true baseline. The second issue you have is that the planned dates are used when you either use the apply actual function when tasks are set to auto compute actuals or the update progress function. Both of these work in a similar way, but if we discuss the update progress function, the intention of the update progress function is to update a program as if it went exactly according to time. So you can move the data date forward a week or a couple of weeks or a month, and it should update the program exactly as if it went according to time. And this is how other products like Microsoft Project, SureTrack and P3 work. But with P6, if you use the update progress function, it'll change the actual start to the planned dates, and it will change the early finish or actual finish of this activity, depending on how far you moved it forward, to the planned date. I strongly recommend that you never use the update progress function if you have a program with progress against it, because it may change your actual dates and your early finish without you realizing it. There's one more issue with planned dates that you need to be aware of. The planned dates will also be read from a baseline and displayed as baseline bars if the Admin Preferences Earn Value tab is set to the default of budgeted values with planned dates. So if you go to the Admin Preferences Earn Value tab, you will see here that as default it selects budgeted value with planned dates. And if you're reading the planned dates from an in-progress baseline program, your baseline will still be incorrect, although you've gone through the process of creating a baseline and setting a baseline. So let me demonstrate these to you. I have a project here that's showing 4 bars. So if I go to the bars form, you'll see that the red or the blue one here is the actual and the critical remaining. If I move down, the orange is the project baseline, the yellow is the primary baseline bar, and the grey is the plan bar. And what you'll see is that the project baseline, the primary baseline, and the plan bar are all the same. But if I select project maintain baselines, you see that I haven't set a baseline, and therefore what you'll notice is that the baseline bar is shown when no baseline has been set, and the baseline is the same as the plan date. And if I'm to change this plan date to the week before, you'll see that all 3 bars move together. I'm going to undo that. If I create a baseline, I can select project maintain baselines, and I'm going to create a baseline. I'm going to copy the current project as a new baseline, and OK. So I now have a baseline program available. And if I go project assign baselines, and I assign the project baseline here now, what will happen is that when I press F5 to refresh, you will see that I'm still showing the planned dates. The reason why I'm showing the planned dates here is because admin preferences, by default, I'm reading the planned dates from the baseline. So what I have to do is to select the current dates, either the at completion or the budget, and I'll explain the difference between these when we get up to updating with resources. I prefer the at completion value with current dates, and close. And now if I press F5 to refresh, you'll see now that I'm showing a real baseline here. And you'll see it's a real baseline because if I pull this bar out, you'll see that that hasn't changed. So now the orange bar is reading a real baseline, which is a project baseline, but the primary baseline, which is the yellow bar, is still reading the plan dates. Move on, let's have a look at the other problems. So first of all, what I'm saying is that the project baseline and the primary baseline read the plan dates when no baseline has been set. And once you set a baseline, then admin preferences, you need to make sure that you're not reading the plan dates here from the baseline schedule. Finally, I want to demonstrate what happens when you update the progress. Suppose I want to update the schedule as if it's gone exactly according to time and it's going to move forward 1 week. So if I go to Tools, Update Progress, with any other software using a function called Update Progress, you wouldn't expect the actual start of the 22nd of February to be changed, and you wouldn't expect the actual finish of the 1st of April to be changed. So if I'm going to use Update Progress and I'm going to update this schedule as if it went exactly according to time and apply, you can see clearly that the actual start and the early finish has been changed to the plan dates. So this presentation clearly demonstrates 3 things. First of all, that the plan dates will be shown as baseline bars when you don't set a baseline. The plan dates from baseline program will be displayed unless you change the admin preferences earn value setting so it doesn't read the plan dates. And finally, when you update a program using Tools Update Progress, it will change actual starts and finishes without telling you. So you need to be careful about using the tools Apply Actuals or Update Progress. So let's finish off the remaining of the date fields. So the remaining early start, the remaining early finish are actual fact correct. So these are the earliest dates that unstarted or incomplete portions of activities may start and finish, and the remaining early start and early finish of a completed activity is null. So these are actually correct. So they're blank when an activity is complete, but they may be edited in the same way as plan dates. The remaining late start and late finish are the latest dates that incomplete portions of activities may start and finish. When an activity is finished, they are null, and when they are not started or in progress, they are in actual fact displaying the correct data. So the remaining late start and late finish are also displaying information in the way one would expect them to.